Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Brogdon, and today I'm going to be discussing corporate social responsibilities and employee engagement in the modern organization. A little bit of background is, corporate social responsibility programs have formerly been a great tactic for recruiting great talent, sort of influencing consumer behaviors and brand imaging in terms of the way they perceive themselves as caring organizations in the kind of larger public's eye. One quote I have here is that corporate social responsibility programs are shifting from a luxury organizational endeavor to an essential business function. And what that means is that both internal and external stakeholders expect and want to engage with socially responsible organizations. So it's no longer oh, if we can afford it, or oh, maybe if we need to kind of increase and create a better positive brand image, then we'll consider corporate social responsibility programs. It's really more of a do or die situation. A couple of examples of larger corporations that you all might be familiar with that are already engaging in corporate social responsibility programs is Coca-Cola. They do a greenhouse gas emissions corporate social responsibility program centered around the environment and ensuring that their Coca-Cola trucks across the country are not disseminating too many harmful chemicals as they are completing their deliveries. Everlane is a retail company that utilized 100% recycled materials to create a reduce renew line of fleece and puffers. So that's kind of an ethical concern as well as an environmental one in terms of production and environmental sustainability. And then finally, Bridgestone, they have an entire host of wonderful programs that they're doing over there, from environment to education to safety to disaster relief. Really a very big plethora of things, very robust program at Bridgestone, which we'll talk a little bit more in depth about a little bit later in the presentation. But I really just wanted to give a little bit of a background and let you know some of the larger companies that you may all be familiar with that are already kind of participating in the CSR trend. The problem is that corporate social responsibility impact research has been very centered on external stakeholder expectations and outcomes. And going forward, really, I think it's important to know that external stakeholders are not the only influencers of organizational success. I've put together this little graph here that sort of stipulates and shows you the different types of impacts that external and internal stakeholders have on corporate social responsibility programs and their overall organizational success. In a lot of ways, corporate social responsibility is a cyclical thing, but external stakeholders are really concerned about their consumer behaviors and how does CSR impact their perceptions of the organization in terms of brand image, and organizational professionals are really worried about how they're marketing CSR. How is the program actually affecting the beneficiaries of the program itself in terms of the environment, etc. On the right hand side, we have internal perspective. So that's going to be engagement levels with these programs, perceptions on alignment in terms of the organization's CSR programs and overall mission, vision, values, and how it affects motivation to perform and those types of things. My thesis stipulates that implementation of corporate social responsibility programs in for-profit organizations in developed nations across the globe will see a benefit from an increase in employee engagement by implementing those programs. Here I have two definitions. One of them is kind of the top one is the more widely accepted definition, and it's a little bit wordy. It's very kind of broad, and it says it's context-specific organizational actions and policies that take into account stakeholders' expectations and the triple bottom line of economic, social, and environmental performance. Put more simply, those are really just policies and procedures put into place that impact the bottom line in organizational success, but also have an impact on economic, social, and environmental performance. And those, like I said, really impact a very large variety of things, from brand image to consumer behaviors to overall organizational health and things like that. The literature review focused on these three areas of topical importance: CSR and organizational alignment, which is going to be, how does the corporate social responsibility programs really align and assimilate to the mission, vision, and values of the organization as a whole. Number two is going to be corporate social responsibility programs and organizational communities. So, how does utilizing CSR programs cultivate community and a really safe space and sense of belonging amongst internal employees? And then number three is CSR and the spectrum of participation. And so that's going to be the ways in which corporate social responsibility programs offer a diverse range of ways in which employees can participate in these programs, whether it's from payroll giving to volunteerism to participating in the actual programs and working with the beneficiaries of these programs, including the environment or, disenfranchised populations, and giving employees a choice on how they'd like to engage. I put Bridgestone here, and as it was mentioned, kind of in one of the introductory slides, they do a really great job of kind of touching on all of these. They have a safety program and seismic isolation bearing and disaster relief program that really coincides with their overall kind of idea that it's someone else's journey, but it's our passion and we're going to kind of help them get there. They also offer an inclusive and equal access to youth education program, and they also do a really great sponsorship and backing of para-athletes competition. These are just a couple of examples. I also know that they do environmental sustainability programs in terms of making sure that they're disposing of their industrial production materials in really safe and ethical ways. There's also quite a few of other examples, dozens in fact, listed on their website, but I think that this sort of just demonstrates the different types of ways that a really robust program can touch on all three areas of these topical importances here, kind of in the modern day organization. The solution is based off of, those three areas of topical concern talked about in the literature review. Essentially, the solution is just going to be kind of curated recommendations for organizations to consider before they even look into implementing CSR programs. It's really important to understand in depth these different types of impacts on organizational success, because for so long, impact research was strictly external facing and was really focused on, hey, how can we make more money? How can we be perceived as a caring organization? How can we really impact and create a positive brand image? And the focus going forward really does need to be on how can we recruit good employees? How can we keep them? How can we utilize CSR as a tool for overall organizational success and health? And these are just three of those topical areas of concern that organizations need to consider in order to be successful. One thing to note here, I've put the PETA logo here just as an example of maybe what not to do in terms of, one of these areas of topical concern. And that would be, PETA, as we all know, is a very caring organization, and they believe in the humane treatment of all animals across the globe. If they were to implement a CSR program that focused on eliminating plastic waste in the environment, I think there would be quite a bit of hoopla and quite a bit of misalignment and confusion about kind of the mission, vision, and goals of this program. Because while it's super great to, eliminate plastic in the environment and work on sustainability, PETA's mission, vision, and values is focused on the humane treatment of animals, and therefore their corporate social responsibility programs should reflect that. Recommendations going forward are going to include these. These are just three examples, but it's really going to need to focus on how implementation can successfully occur going forward. So not necessarily what do we need to know about impacts and what's going to happen once we do, but how are we going to successfully implement these, anywhere from communication all the way to the selection process of implementation. Relevance overall to the field really just is, again, bringing it back to the point that external stakeholders are not the only influencers in organizational success. Internal stakeholders have as much impact on those things as as do external consumers. So the focus really needs to be moving from kind of, bottom up perspectives, or excuse me, top down perspectives to bottom up, and kind of looking at the ways in which the employee can provide for the organization and the ways in which the organization can really utilize employees to the best of their abilities through CSR programs. Um, Overall conclusions, again, is really just talking about CSR as a tool for bettering overall organizational health and really focusing on overall impacts, both internal and external, to the organization when it comes to corporate social responsibility programs, and understanding that consumers are not the only people who kind of help make a business, but that employees do too, and the ways in which they engage in corporate social responsibility programs can kind of really be make or break going forward in terms of your organizational success and well-being. This is just a quick references page. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to me. I look forward to answering any questions.